Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning
Hi.
in. I'm Raina.
Nope, yeah. And I'm Ben. Sorry.
So we're both from Garden District Bookshop, and we are here this evening to recommend you some books and talk books in general and have a drink. Ben, I forgot to ask you before we signed on, do you have a drink?
I do. I have a nice cup of peppermint tea.
Oh, very fancy. See, I went with coffee, a coffee drink. I did splash some Baileys in it.
Very nice.
I have a mom's night in after this.
Oh.
My one friend that we hang out unmasked is coming over after this. So I couldn't get the drinking started super early this evening to take a step back from virtual happy hour for that. But that is okay. So I just wanted to say to everyone, when you get here, if you're watching us and you have any questions about books or bookstores, or you need a book recommendation or anything else that comes to mind, type it in the comments and we will answer it as we go along.
But between the two of us, we know a lot of books.
Yes, yeah,
we know all the books.
We know all the books.
All the books.
We can
find a book for you or someone you're trying to get a gift for.
That's right. The holidays are coming up and shipping's taking a little extra time these days. So now's the time to start thinking about those book gifts. If you have someone that you're thinking of getting a gift for Hanukkah or Christmas, now's the time to get that recommendation. So what we are going to do this evening is a little bit different than kind of what we've done in the past. Ben and I have come up with a list of as many genres really as we could think of leading up to virtual happy hour tonight. And then we picked book recommendations for each of those genres. So that said, we have a list. Oh, I just made my chair shorter. It was way more dramatic than I thought it was going to be. So we have a list to run down, and we are going to say a genre and then tell you what our recommendation is. And if at any time you have a comment or you need a recommendation of your own, just jump into the comments and we will respond accordingly. Okay, so I think we decided that we were going to start with what we're reading right now. What are you currently reading, Ben?
I've got two things going at once. I've got my fiction book, which is Rules of Civility by Armor Tools. And don't tell my book group because I'm really behind. We already discussed it and I just wasn't there. So I'm still, but I'm almost done. But I am really enjoying it. It's really nice and kind of interesting, exactly like that Fitzgerald-y 20s New York glamorous. And then the other book I'm reading is The Grimaldis of Monaco.
Wow.
Which everyone obviously knows Princess Grace Kelly, but I'm more interested in this because of this woman named Alice Hine, who was the Princess of Monaco 3 before Grace Kelly, and she was born in New Orleans, and her mom was Creole, and her dad was a German immigrant, and so she went from being born in the French Quarter to being the Princess of Monaco. So,
oh my gosh!
Yeah, I know, and no one knows about her. Before Meghan Markle, before Grace Kelly, there was Alice Hine, who was the Princess of. Let me see if I can find the picture of her. So I'm working on a little you can see her right there. She's a New Orleans lady, and they said she always spoke in a Southern accent, even she introduced Creole cooking into Parisian society and stuff. It's really interesting. So I'm really enjoying this one. I've been flagging it up with all sorts of stuff
I see that. Okay, you have to put the link in the document that we're sharing. And then
I definitely will. I can.
And that's a nonfiction book, right?
Yeah, that's a nonfiction. It's all about the dynasty, but she's prominently featured in there, and they talk about her parents and New Orleans.
Did you get it at the bookstore? Is it in print now?
It's still you can get the paperback now. I had just found this old hardback used somewhere, and then once I just found out about her, then I was I need to read that book and see if she's in it, and then luckily she was. But I've got the paperback link right now, so I can put that in our doc and we can
I'll add it to the comments. So all of the books that we recommend tonight, we are going to put in the comments for sure. So you don't have to write them all down. You just have to keep track of the comments or come back in a few minutes and they'll all be there. So what I'm reading right now is Start Here by Trish Dollar, which is technically a YA book, but it doesn't have to be. It's one of those ones that just has, I mean, both of the girls are like 17, they're like 17 and 18, so they're younger, but we're not talking about like a teen drama kind of thing. Right. You know? So it's really good. And earlier this year, I read Float Plan by Trish Dollar, which is her first adult book. And this is a young adult book, but they both have sailing adventures in them.
Okay.
And I really loved Float Plan, so I was like, okay, I need to read the YA that she wrote just before that one that also has sailing as a theme. And both Float Plan and Start Here will make you want to jump on a sailboat and just take off. It's amazing. And then I'm also listening to Ready Player One. Finally, it's been on my list of books to read for I don't know, since it came out probably. And I'm finally getting around to it and I'm actually really loving it. So if you've been holding off on that for some reason, or if you've seen the movie, I've heard the movie isn't nearly as good, which it almost never is, but I've heard that particularly about this one. So if you've seen the movie and didn't love it, go back and read the book, do it. It's good. And it's read by Will Wheaton. So.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So it's got a really good narrator as well. Now I have to check the list. Oh, okay. So the next thing on our list is YA. What's your YA pick, Ben?
Okay, my YA pick is one of my all-time favorite books. And this was difficult because like there's a lot of YA in my life that has been very important, but I was like, I think I need to recommend this one. And it's Sabriel by Garth Nix. And if you haven't read this story, Sabriel is the daughter of the Abhorsen, and he is a necromancer who puts the dead back to sleep. So other necromancers bring the dead back, and he's the one protecting the whole kingdom, and putting them all back sending them back into death. And when her dad gets stuck in the afterlife underworld, Sabriel then has to leave her boarding school and go on this adventure to rescue her father. And it's so good. It's an old one, but it's like constantly getting like this is the first cover. I think they've already done like 3 more now, but it's still in print. We can get it for me at the bookshop. And the best thing about Sabriel is it's like you can read it as a standalone, and if you like it, there's more books after. But when he wrote this one, it's all wraps up at the end. So there's no cliffhangers or anything like that. Like you get a really good story from the get-go in this book. And there's this amazing demonic cat called Mogget, who is just one of the funniest characters I've ever come across in all of literature. So highly recommend. You don't have to be a kid to read this, but if you are a child, I would say you want to be like, if you're going to get this for a child, I'd say 13 and above. I wouldn't go younger than that because it is obviously a bit darker because they're wandering in the waters of death.
Right.
But definitely recommend this one. What about you? What have you? Oh wait, have you read it?
No, I haven't read it, but that's another one like I've heard of, and I've heard only good things about it, and just never gotten around to it.
If you want to listen to the audiobook of it, because I've read it multiple times, Tim Curry reads the audiobook, and so good. It's so good. Like that was, it was like a whole nother, it was so like when I listened to it after having read it, it had been like 10 years when I listened to it for the first time. I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. It was fresh. It was so good. So it's a good one to
right now to see if Libra FM has it on audio by Tim Curry. Okay, I'm gonna put that in the links as well.
Yeah, so and it's a great one it's definitely an A+ audiobook. And Garth Nix is just like a master of fantasy, like seriously so good at world building.
I haven't read any of his stuff that does that. I know. I really need to. And I love fantasy too. Oh, yeah, I want to say hi to Sharon.
Hi, Sharon. Thank you for coming. Thank you for commenting. Happy Friday. Yes. We're happy it's Friday too.
Right. And if you need any book recommendations, comment, tell us a little bit about yourself or whoever you would like to buy a book for, and we will try and help you find the right book. Okay, so I have 2 YA recommendations. One is a newer book, Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Bayron. This came out in July, I believe, and it's a storytale retelling. Fairy tale retelling. There we go. It's a fairy.
Oh, did we lose her or did y'all lose me? Can you hear me, darling? Hear me, SOS. What's happening? When I call my name like a door. Hi, let me go. Question. I don't know what's happening. This is very frightening. I can't tell if it's me or if it's Raina. It looks like Raina's frozen. Yeah, it does. Raina's frozen. I'm looking on my phone. So, hi. It's just me, just Bookseller Ben. Raina was recommending Cinderella is Dead, but she's been frozen out. But there's 5 of you here, so please feel free to comment. Let me know what's happening. This is my bedroom, my bookshelf. I have lots and lots of books, and that's a window. Obviously, that's why it's really bright. So, yeah, I'm gonna talk about, while Raina is away, I'm just gonna go on to my next book recommendation, which is a more of a middle grade book. It's called The Emerald Atlas by John Stevens. And I remember, the first thing I remember about this book was hearing, like, it's the next Harry Potter, which I feel like there was a time and a place that everything was the next Harry Potter, right? But this one is actually really, really good. And I feel like it's kind of underrated in the terms of the whole canon of like children's lit, because it's, think of series of unfortunate events, but magic. So we've got 3 orphans, classic trope. It's like, but it's more of the like Lord of the Ringsy mythology stuff. So there's elves and there's dragons and there's dwarves and they're in an orphanage and there's an evil time traveling witch. I mean, it's just really well written, and John Stevens is a screenwriter for a long time before he ever wrote this book, and you can tell that he thought everything out because it's a trilogy called The Books of Beginning, and when you get to the last book in this series, like it's just a beautiful circle. Like all of it comes together so well. But yeah, this was like branded as supposed to be like the next Harry Potter. If you ever listen to the Harry Potter audiobooks, Jim Dale was the narrator. And he narrates these books as well, which at first was like a little freaky because you're like, wait, is that Hagrid? No. But it's really good. I was like jumping back and forth between like reading it and listening to the audiobook when I'd be driving to work. But you've got 3 siblings, Kate, Michael, Emma, and they're sort of similar to the Baudelaires. I mean, obviously, in that it's like girl, boy, girl, but you don't have the baby. And you have Kate is really like the like stricter sibling. She's like promised to she's like stuck in that thing of like the last time she saw her parents, she promised to protect both of her younger siblings. And so they get sent, they keep getting kicked out of orphanages, and then they eventually get sent to this really weird one with this crazy old doctor, which is like a total Narnia thing. It's exactly like how oh, what's his name? I'm not gonna remember, but you know the old doctor in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe that they go and live at his house. So the same sort of thing happens to the 3. Oh no, what are their last names? Anyway, it's kind of like an homage. Like, so if you read The Magicians by Lev Grossman as an adult, this is that. Like what that book was to Narnia and Lord of the Rings and all of that for adults is what the Emerald Atlas is like homage to the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and a bit of Harry Potter because there's magical spell books. And each child is like has their own special power spell thing that they can talk about. Hi, Raina. Welcome back.
Hi. I'm now on my phone.
You scared me for a second there. I didn't know if it was me or if it was you.
No, it's my home internet. My home internet seems to have just stopped doing that. But luckily, my phone will let us continue. So I'm trying to find like the best angle, but we can press on.
Okay.
I'm here. So did you give Sharon a recommendation? Is that where you were, or where were you?
Oh no, I was just talking about myself.
That
Hi
works
Sharon.
too.
I see that you so the last two books you read are The Book of Lost Names, which we've been selling a lot of at the bookstore, and Verity by Colleen Hoover. I never read Colleen Hoover, but I have heard good things. I know she's popular, but both very good. So that's very good to know. And then we have Hope here as well. Hi Hope. But was anyone in looking for a recommendation? And I just didn't.
Oh no, I was looking. I mean, is there anything that we can recommend to Sharon based on those two books?
Okay. That's a good idea.
What is the Book of Lost Names about, honestly? I know the cover. Like, I know if someone comes into the bookstore and asks for it, I know where to go looking for it, but I don't really know much of what it's about. And my looker upper has stopped working, so I can't look it up and pretend like I know what I'm talking about.
Paris.
Okay. All right.
Inspired by the astonishing true story from World War II, a young woman with a talent for forgery helps hundreds of Jewish children flee the Nazis in an unforgettable historical novel. Okay, so it sounds like World War II historical set in Paris.
Okay, well, I have a World War II historical novel, not set in Paris. It's called The Girl from the Train, not the girl on the train, the girl from the train. I have a copy in my living room, but it is not in here with me. It is about there's a family is on a train, Jewish family's on a train, and the train explodes, and the only survivor is this little girl. She's 10-ish, and a family finds her. They're in Poland. A family finds her, and they decide they're going to keep her. So they start out hiding her, but then so much time goes by, they try and integrate her into their little village, and so there's all of that tension, and that's the first half of the book. The second half of the book is where really like the historical stuff came in that I didn't know anything about. After World War II, South Africa, to be quite blunt, wanted more white people. So they families offered to foster and adopt orphans from World War II.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't know anything about that. That is a true story. So in this fiction, the second half of it is the little girl gets adopted out to South Africa. So it's the second half is set in South Africa just after the war. What that means, what happens when you show up as this Jewish girl in South Africa, and like what happened, what do you do? Right. It is The Girl from the Train. I
can look up the author for you.
Yeah, Jorba. I'm not remembering the title, and I'm sorry. I can go back after we're done and put in all the things that we recommend.
Irma Jorbe.
Yes. There we go. So my second YA book, right? So I did Cinderella's Dead, which is a fairy tale retelling based on Cinderella, and it's wonderful, and you should definitely read that. And that came out in July. My second one is for older YA. There is a sex scene in this book. It's not crazy graphic, but it does happen. So be aware of that. It is technically a YA, but I would say an older YA, more mature YA. But Hold Me Closer, Necromancer, Wish Me Bride. It's a two-book series, and this is the first book in the series. And one thing I really love about it is every chapter title is has to do with the music.
Is a pun.
Is a lyric, right? Is a pun to a musical lyric, and that is fun. It's a boy who he's in college. He just started college, so he's a little bit older, and than your typical YA book, and
New
finds
adult,
out
as they think they
right.
call
Yes,
it.
it's a new adult novel. Finds out he is actually from a long line of necromancers, and there's your setup.
Whoa, weird that we both had necromancer books.
Right?
That's funny.
True.
And it's not even Halloween, y'all.
It's not,
But
but
it's
these are
coming.
both Halloween.
Yeah, they both be good for Halloween.
Okay, you have to keep us on a roll because I can't look at our document.
Okay.
Tell me what's next on the list.
Oh, the mystery category. Okay. Where did I put my mystery book? Oh, there it is. All right, I've got an oldie for you. This is The Man Who Was Thursday by J.K. Chesterton. I only really ever read this book. I found out about this book because it's one of Neil Gaiman's favorite books. It's a little bitty thing. And fun fact, in Ponchatoula, Louisiana, there's a giant statue of J.K. Chesterton in the town square. And he's never been, he's a British author. He was never in Ponchatoula, Louisiana. They're just big fans of his writing. So,
all right.
Yeah, it's a quite a funny, like, undercover policeman, anarchists sent in by Scotland Yard, like quite a funny mystery. And it will not take you long to read it all.
No, I read that one. It's really good. Like, he's sort of this spy, and
right.
But yeah, everyone's named after like a day of the week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Thursday. So I like that. Well, I don't have my physical mystery recommendations, and I don't read a ton of mysteries, but there's a series of mysteries, and it's kind of older.
Them.
It's older, but you can get it. The Cat Who mysteries. Oh my gosh, it's like the cat who fell down the stairs, the cat who walked backwards, the cat who
came to breakfast is one of them.
Yes. There's like 28 of these, maybe more, honestly. There's a lot. And I listened to most of them. One of my favorite audiobook narrators, George Guidall, he narrates all of them. So I'll put the link in here later because a lot of them are available on Libro.fm. And then there's a lot of them that we can order physical copies at the bookstore as well. I think there's some of them that are like back ordered, because there's so many of them and they're older. But we can get a lot of them. Between Libro.fm and us, you'd be able to get most of them. And I will put links to that later.
I wholeheartedly recommend, concur with that recommendation. I used to read those all the time when I was like in high school. Like, they're good for all ages. Like, I think I started reading them when I was like 11 or 12. And just would like go to the library and work my way through them. And there's like these two Siamese cats, Coco and I want to say Yum Yum, but I don't remember the other cat's name. But one of them is definitely Coke. I think Coco's the first one. Like, eventually there's two, and you have, I think his name is George, the kind of protagonist. It's like,
I think his name is George too. Yeah,
it's very a la like Murder, She Wrote, but there's cats, and they're all set, or for the most part, all set in this one town. Small town. So yeah, love those.
I love it. He gets this recumbent bike. Like, the town buys it for him or something. Like, I can't remember exactly, but he's just this old kind of curmudgeon-y guy too. And so he's like, oh, I have to learn how to ride this crazy recumbent bike. What is this? And then of course he loves it, and he's wandering all around. And that's honestly, before I read those, I was like, what is a recumbent bike? I didn't know. Like, I'm putting the two words together, but I'm like, I don't really know. I had to look that up. And I'm like, oh, okay. I did. That was my introduction to recumbent bicycles. Does that work?
Okay, our next category is thriller. And I've also gone with a classic option for all of you, Rebecca.
Ooh.
By Daphne du Maurier. And there's a brand new, I think it was supposed to come out in theaters, but then obviously, thanks to coronavirus, we're going to get it on Netflix, and it has Armie Hammer and Lily James, a new adaptation coming out. And if you don't know about Rebecca, it's about a woman who marries a man, and they're all happy when they meet in Italy, and it's all lovely. And then when she comes back to his house, things get weird quick. And it has I think everyone loves the opening line. Like, last night I dreamt I went to Manderley again. It's like one of the most famous opening lines. And I think Daphne du Maurier is one of those people that everyone should read Rebecca, and like, do not be intimidated by this book because it's like a classic. Like you will jive with this book. It's not. I don't know what's a hard classic to read. It's not War and Peace. Okay, like you can easily start enjoying Rebecca. I think personally. Raina is jumping in
back
and out.
over here. Oh, my internet came back on for a minute. Hopefully it stays with us. We're going to try this. I'll get my links back and I'll be able to see things. It's going to be great. Okay, well, I did make a visual for this next one just a second ago because I also don't have the physical copy of this one. But My Sister, the Serial Killer. If you haven't read it yet, do it. If you like thrillers, do it. The secret is out. You know who did it. It's right there on the front cover, as you can see in my drawing. Yes, it's right there on the front cover, but that really doesn't give away anything, weirdly enough. And it's also about like family. You know, one sister is a serial killer. The other sisters have to figure out what to do with that. And, you know, what happens, you know, if that is happening in your family. And so it's part this mystery thriller about the actual serial killing and then part family drama. And I love it.
I know. I've heard only amazing things. And it was, I think it was it was definitely shortlisted for the Women's Prize in Britain last year. And I think it was even on the Man Booker Prize. Like it did really, really well.
Yeah, I think so. It did. It definitely did.
Okay, after thrillers, we've got graphic novels.
Okay. Where's my phone's on my graphic novels. It was my stand. So I have this set of graphic novels. There's 4 out so far. I think the 5th one might come out later this year or early next year. And it's called Our Dreams at Dusk series. My son, who is 13, he originally found these and wanted me to get them for him at the bookstore, so I did. And it's about teenagers who don't feel like they fit in, and there is this land they can go to with people that are similar to them. And it really, I think, is a metaphor for all teenagers in a way, but I think the LGBTQ community, feeling out of place and then finding people who accept you. And it's beautifully, beautifully drawn. And I mean, the covers are really pretty in those pastels and everything, but the inside is beautifully drawn. And I think it would be a good thing. I mean, it's for adults. I enjoyed it. My son enjoyed it. Those are my graphic novels.
Nice. Okay, mine is really cheesy and nostalgic. It's the Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Promise, omnibus, which this only just came out. If you watched the show like I did as a child, which came out 15 years ago now, they just put it back on Netflix. So of course during quarantine I rewatched the whole thing. And this just keeps the story going, and it's actually really good. I was pleasantly surprised, but it's got the original creators of the show like writing, and it's also got Liu Yang, who wrote like American Born Chinese and Boxers and Saints. Like he writes these. So it's
really?
like,
I did not know that.
It's like the top tier of like graphic novel writers writing Avatar: The Last Airbender with the show creators. So yeah, if you were a fan of the show, you will want to keep reading the comics because you get to find out lots more fun stuff. So that's my graphic novel for you.
Awesome. I have not watched or read any of The Last Airbender, and I know everyone tells
me, it.
I know they say that. They tell me that.
Like it.
And then I just haven't done it yet, but I will. I will eventually.
They'll be waiting for you until Netflix takes it off.
I know, right? That's another thing that I worry about now. Like you start, especially something with so many seasons, and you start it, and you never know when it's going to disappear. Exactly. Not okay.
Right, I remember that used to be like a very common. You would always like look for like the BuzzFeed article that was like, "What Netflix is taking off in April," and you'd be like, "Oh, I need to
Right, like you
finish."
better sit down and watch all of it right now because
Right.
it's gonna be gone. I feel like at some point there should always be like a full disclosure. We only have the contract from April 2020 to April 2021, so
Right, and
watch it now.
you have and you started in March 2021. You better get watching.
Right? You're about to run out of time. You thought you were just gonna watch it one a weekend. No.
Okay,
All
I
right,
think
what's
our
our next
next category was science fiction.
one? Okay.
What
Okay.
you got for me?
All right. Space Opera by Catherine Valente. It's Eurovision in space.
Oh,
That is the
okay.
short. I mean, that's the elevator pitch, and that's basically what it is. And then the drama between some of the contestants and like how they get to be where they are and why they chose what they did, and the drama behind how you win the space opera.
She's the one who wrote the girl who
Yes,
flew to fairyland,
circumnavigated
the world.
fairyland on a ship of her own making.
Yes. Okay, that's what I've read that before.
Yes, that is a YA series, and I really liked all of those. I actually, I first met her, a friend of mine who I've known forever. Literally, our parents were friends. I went to visit her in New Hampshire for a few days, and then she's like, "Oh, a friend of mine couldn't make her fairy, and they're just going to crash on the couch tonight. Is that cool?" And I'm like, "Well, it's your house, so I guess that's cool." And it turned out the person crashing on the couch that couldn't make her fairy was Catherine Valente. Yeah.
Whoa, it's a small world. That's
Right?
very cool.
Exactly. But her books are also 2 thumbs up.
Oh, very nice. Okay, mine is an oldie that I had to read in high school called The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury, which this is a series of short stories, all sort of centered around the tattoos on this man's body. Like they all sort of play out, at least that's how it is in my memory. But there's some really weird ones and some really good ones. And yeah, just like it's a good place to start. Like I know everyone reads Fahrenheit 451, or a lot of people have read it, but if you have read that and you enjoyed him and you never went back to Ray Bradbury, I say definitely give The Illustrated Man a chance. And if you haven't read Fahrenheit 451 for some reason and you are like wanting to just like dip your toe in, I would just go get this book and read some of the short stories, and you'll get a really good sense of his writing. And it's really good science fiction. So that's what I got for you.
Now you asked me earlier if I had a short story collection in my pile, and I told you no, but that was a lie. Because we should do fantasy next. Is fantasy next on the list?
Fantasy is next on the list.
Awesome, because what I put in my fantasy category is The October Country by Ray Bradbury, and it is short stories too. And I feel like sometimes Ray Bradbury, I feel like sometimes he's fantasy stuff. He's not like super elves and I don't know, dragons fantasy, but sometimes he's fantasy, sometimes he's sci-fi. Some people say that he's horror as well. Like, yeah, I've heard that. Like, and I would definitely say that some of the short stories in here could border between like there's all three in this.
Right. It's like that although I guess Lovecraft is also like kind of towing that line, but is more scary than
he's more scary. Lovecraft's more scary, but I mean he's got magical creatures, so that's kind of fantasy. But then where's the line? And I don't know if there's a technical line. This definitely is on that line. There's some stories that are kind of scary, psychologically scary, not like really jump scares out you. But then a lot that are fantasy and live in that sort of what if kind of scenarios. And I really love this. Is my favorite collection.
I have never read. I'm gonna have to get that one because I've never read that. Okay, so my fantasy recommendation is Circe by Madeline Miller, which
reading that.
is so good. I just finished this like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it is so good.
Are you going to come to that book club? You should come to that book club.
Look at that.
It's November, I think.
For Benjamin Madeline Miller. Yeah, so good. Even if you haven't read Song of Achilles, that one's great as well. But Circe is such a good interesting retelling of a character that we kind of just like brush aside in like we just know her as like a woman that Odysseus stayed on her island for a year or two. And she's sort of been pushed to the back of like the great people in Greek mythology, but she's really this like Madeline Miller makes this amazing fleshed out story of her entire life as a goddess. And it's so well written and it's so interesting and gripping, and just like as soon as I started I didn't stop reading.
I'm really looking forward to it. I'm glad that the book club picked that one because I'm really looking forward to reading it.
And a fun tidbit is that when I saw Madeline Miller talking about Circe, she said she gave Odysseus the same amount of space in the novel Circe that Circe is given in the Odyssey. So he's not in there anymore. It's like 15% or something, whatever it is. So there's not, it's not the Odysseus show. It's not it's like was branded as an Odyssey retelling, but it's really just sort of Circe getting to tell her story for the first time instead. So it's not like the Odysseus show.
The tides have turned. It's fair. Yeah. Yes.
So very, very good. Highly recommend Circe. Definitely one of the best books I've read all year. And I'm kind of late to the party because it came out like 2018, but.
Well, like I said, I haven't read it either, but I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I think you're gonna like it.
Reading it for sure.
Okay. Oh, horror.
Horror is the next one. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So my horror recommendation is De-Evolution by Max Brooks. It is the story of the Sasquatch uprising. What is it? Yeah, the first-hand account of the Rainier Sasquatch massacre. I'm sorry, the Sasquatch massacre. And Max Brooks, he wrote World War Z. If you haven't read World War Z, you should read World War Z, even if you're not that into zombies. And if you watch the movie, it was complete crap. The only good part about it was Brad Pitt's face. Everything else was complete and utter crap. But the book is amazing, and the way he did it was it's through newspaper clippings and news reels and firsthand accounts, journal diary entries, and everything like that. And that's how he builds the zombie. What happened when the zombies came, and that's how he does it in here as well. It's a firsthand account of the Sasquatch massacre. So there were Bigfoot, they were massacred, and this is how it happened in a point by point. He's going back to study it, and then he presents it to you in the clippings and accounts and journal entries that he finds along the way. And he does an amazing job building the story, just like he did in World War Z. And then it leaves you with could that happen? Is that because when you piece it together, we're living in a thing that if you had described to someone 5 or 10 years ago, they'd be like, what? How does that happen? What happens one little piece at a time? One little person gets sick and 2 people get sick, and then one person spots a Bigfoot and another person spots a Bigfoot, and all of a sudden there's a Bigfoot uprising.
Uh-oh. That sounds really good. Bizarre, but really good.
Right?
Okay, mine is kind of boring. Or not boring, I shouldn't say boring, because it is really good. But it is another classic. That is The Lottery by Shirley Jackson, which is a short story and a short story collection. And if you don't know, I'm not going to give away what happens in The Lottery. But just know, Shirley Jackson is the original, such a good writer, and just a truly unique writing style. And I love, so this is my grandfather's copy and he gave it to me. And I just love that in her bio, she says, let me find it. It is said that Miss Jackson is perhaps the only contemporary writer who is a practicing amateur witch, specializing in small-scale black magic. Readers of The Lottery may not find this hard to believe. That's her bio in the back of the book, which is so great. So yeah, this is it's called The Adventures of James Harris is like the subtitle, and that's kind of been lost over time now. But just get The Lottery. It's perfect for Halloween. Read it. I think it just depends. Like most people, either you read it in school or someone kind of showed it to you, or maybe you found it up on the internet. But I'm surprised. Like, I feel like it's not as popular as in my mind I thought it was, because I was like, oh, this is such a great story. I feel like everyone's read this, and then come to find out they have it. So you have not.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, well, so The Lottery is absolutely what we're saying. It's like a classic. We put it in the horror category, and it is, I think, technically a horror book. That's where it would go on a shelf in a bookstore. But it's transcended that. I feel like if you are a reader, if you like to read, like to, be a well-read person, I guess, or consider yourself that, The Lottery is one of those ones. It's one of those classic horror books that even if you're not super into horror, you should read it. You should have read it. She was at the forefront of what we think of as a horror novel.
Oh yeah, it was in the New Yorker. Today. Like it is. This is like literary short stories that are dark and are horror for sure. But yeah, it's, if you are a reader, I say give it a go. Like if you were trying to have that well-rounded, that was a good point to make.
Absolutely. Okay, so we have a book recommendation question. Christy asked, what would you recommend for kids learning about the solar system? So I have a solar system book. It's a little older. I guess it's not for kids wanting to learn about the solar system, but it is for kids who like space and the solar system and such. It's called See You in the Cosmos, and it's by Jack Cheng. I'm going to link here to the Libro FM, the audiobook copy, because I listened to it with my son on audio, and it is one of the best audiobook productions that I have ever seen, that I've ever heard. And I definitely would recommend it for sure. You are back. So I'm going to link to that here. Do you have any book ideas for a kid? Can you tell me how old, Chrissy? Are you still here? Actually, I know the answer to that. I'm not gonna lie. I know the answer to that. He's 7.
My initial thought is that it could, like, Magic School Bus. I feel like when I was learning about the solar system, they Lost in the Solar System. That's the one I'm thinking of. And I found the link. I'm going to put it in our little chat thing here, and maybe I can share it. But yeah, that would be kind of my go-to one. I always loved the Magic School Bus when I was a kid. I'm sure we have some bigger picture book at the store, or we've had before about the solar system, I think. I just can't think of the name of it, but yeah, I always go with the Magic Schools, although that one's probably going to tell you Pluto, which R.I.P. Pluto.
Yeah, I find it that that's so strange. It's such a strange concept that I don't know what to tell my son. I mean, he's like, it's not a planet. I'm like, I guess, but what do you even study it now? Like, we didn't study things that weren't planets. The sun, the moon, the planets, was it.
Right.
So I get, why even bring Pluto up these days? Why even mention it? I'm not sure. I don't know the teacher or science reasons behind that, and I'm not judging. I'm just wondering. I don't know. Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate that. And if anybody's watching and needs any book recommendations, we're just rattling on about the genres that we came up with to talk about before we started here. But if you have any questions or need a recommendation, type it in the comments and we will come up with something for you, for sure. What's our next category?
I think our next was dysfunctional families. No, yes, it was, or time travel, but we can skip time travel and do
we can come back
and go back to it. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't have a copy of this anymore. I know I did at some point, but I don't anymore. This is Where I Leave You by Jonathan Tropper. It is, the father dies. It's been a few years since I've read it. The father passes away, and all of the brothers and sisters, and the mom and everybody have to come back and sit Shiva with the body. So they have not gotten along for some time, but they're all going to come back and do this. So it gets, I want to say 5 siblings, could be wrong, and then there are 4 or 5 siblings all together. Their significant others, some
I think
children.
it's 3 brothers and a sister.
Okay.
From my memory.
Yeah. And they're all in this house now and having to deal with each other and all the things they have said accidentally and not said over the last few years to each other. And I absolutely loved every minute of it. There is a movie. The movie is good.
I like the movie better.
Yeah,
which is controversial. I know.
I thought the movie was really good. I feel like it's good on its own. I feel like I separate the two. I enjoyed the movie very much. I enjoyed the book very much. There are some differences in the two. So I definitely would say do both, for sure.
Okay, my dysfunctional family, and then we will come get these recommendations for y'all, is Kevin Kwan's new book, Sex and Vanity, which is a retelling, sort of A Room with a View by E.M. Forster. So you've got Lucy Churchill, who is a biracial American, half Asian, half white, and her dad's family are like this very like waspy New England, and her mom's family are second generation Chinese Americans from the West, like Seattle, Portland, over there. And so she's sort of torn between 2 cultures, torn between like what she thinks of herself, and it's just quite a fun romp. It's more serious than Crazy Rich Asians, like a little bit. Like it's got some more meat to it to like examine and talk about. But totally would recommend. Very fun read. I loved it. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so let's go back here. We had some recommendations. So the first one from Sandra, recommendations for a book set in the fall or that with a fall time.
Give that vibe.
Yes. Okay. So I have one, but I'm going to have to look it up. Oh my gosh. Girls of August, I think is the title of it. I'm Googling it right now. I have it in my living room so I can see in my mind. Yes. Okay. Now, Girls of August by Anne Rivers Seedens. August is obviously in the title, but they they go to the beach, but it's women who spend this week together at the beach every year. They've done it for years and years, and it is absolutely a feel good women friends book. But it's not. They are at the beach, but they're in the fall of their lives. That's
okay.
You know, and I didn't. It doesn't feel like one of those beach books where they're like, oh, they're laying out in the sun and they're having, they're playing beach volleyball. Like, it doesn't feel like a beach book like that. It feels like it's more subdued, and they. I honestly don't remember what time of year it takes place in. It didn't feel like June, July to me, like beach summer years or time period. I remember it as being more of a fall book. And it just has that more of a calming. I don't know why fall makes me feel calm, but it does. And this book did too. So there you go.
And the antithesis of feeling calm is this is in my mind is The Secret History by Donna Tartt is so like New England fall, snowy, kind of November-y. Like it does take place across a whole year. But there's a big chunk of it that is like that fall, wintry vibe. And it's not a whodunit, it's a whydunit. So the first page, you got the body on page 1. So you know who's going to die, you know who kills him. And yeah, so That's all I can think of. I'm sorry I don't have like a better like kind of fall vibe book. I'm struggling to come up with one. I guess maybe like some more Shirley Jackson. Could be like scared in the haunted on.
Maybe Shirley
We've
Jackson,
always
feels
lived in the
that way because of
castle.
Halloween.
Feels very Halloweeny. Dracula, Frankenstein.
But I don't know why they are. I don't know if they are.
Yeah, I'm trying like. But
Thinking about books though, like unless the season is for some reason like front and center, like that is important that it's winter or it's important that it's summer, for example. I don't know, being a fall, what season the book is taking place in doesn't. I don't remember a lot.
Right, it's harder. Yeah, because I feel like most books that you come across are. I mean, sometimes they do like a summer, but a lot of times you're getting, like a whole year in these people's or more in people's lives. So it's hard to think of like, but I'm like, because fall in my mind is like that, like New England leaves turning Gilmore Girls.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I would read the crap out of Gilmore Girls, a series of Gilmore Girls books. They would just be so fun and feel good and just like, yeah, I would. I don't know that those exist. If they did, there was probably just a couple of them and it was many years ago and now they don't exist anymore, but I never remember hearing of them. Okay, let's see what we have here.
Okay, Rochelle was asking her husband who loves video games, knowing cool facts, and is interested in world building.
Okay, well, I mean, if
he's interesting world building.
If he reads and if if he's a reader, you know what I mean. And he likes video games. He's probably already read this, but like my Ready Player One I'm listening to right now, and if he's super into video games and cool facts, this would definitely be one. You can get it on audio or in a print book. And if he hasn't read that yet, he would enjoy that, I'm sure. Cool facts though. What is that book by what is it? It's like it's over on like where the design and the architecture books are, and it's like how what if I think.
Oh yes, okay. That rings a bell.
I'm gonna look it up right now. I think it's What If, and it's a book all about what if you tied a bunch of balloons to a lawn chair. What if you tried to, you threw a ball up in the air at X amount of miles per hour? How long would it take for it to come back down? And would it actually, would it hurt anybody? Like, what if these, different weird things that when you're just sitting around, you might think, oh, I wonder what would happen if you did that. But no one's actually going to take their science grant dollars and make that happen. And this guy was like, I'm going to work out the math. Like, I'm going to figure out the science behind that. Okay. It is What If.
I guess the other thing would be like the Witcher books, but again, he might have already read those.
Those are really good too. And some interesting facts for that. If he's played the Witcher video games or if he has watched the show, the books and the games and the show all go together. They are not copies of each other. If you read the books and then play the game, read the books, play the games in the order that they came out, they tell more of that same story. They don't overlap. Does that make sense? Am I?
Yeah. It's all interwoven.
It's all I get what you're saying. Yeah. So if he's played it and not read the books, he should go back and read them and play them in order again, because he'll have the full story. And then the TV show comes at the end right now is where that is.
Okay, what is our next? We could quickly go back to time travel.
Oh, yeah. So let's do time travel. My time travel book, I found out, is controversial time travel. I did not know this. Okay. So I read Kindred by Octavia Butler very recently, just in the last month. And I loved it. I always thought it was a sci-fi time travel book from working in bookstores and where we shelve it and everything. And then after I read it, and I'm talking to people, people are like, I don't think that's a time travel book. And I'm like, well, they travel in time. But evidently, there's a controversial opinion about what constitutes a time travel book. And some people think that in order for it to be a time travel book, time travel has to be one of the central, like the time machine, building the machine, having the thing that moves you back in time, making the conscious decision to go forward and backward in time. That's what constitutes a time travel book. If it just includes someone who happens to travel through time, that's some gray area. I did not know that.
Okay, interesting. I did not know that either.
I mean, in my opinion, if there is time travel involved, it can be considered a time travel book. I don't know, because like the time traveler's wife, it's right there in the title. There's no machine in the time traveler's wife.
Right.
Just travels.
Right. There's different mechanisms for how one would travel back in time. Like, for instance, my pick is a middle grade book called Tangled in Time by Catherine Lansky, about a girl who's like sort of a fashionista. And when her mom dies, she has to move with her dad to her grandma's house, and she finds a portal back to Tudor England and becomes friends with the young Princess Elizabeth I.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's really, really well written, fun story. It's a series too, but I love that sort of Tudory time. So I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to give this a go. But yeah, she just finds a portal in a garden. So she doesn't invent a time machine or have anything specific. It's just what happens.
Right. I love that cover too.
Yeah, it's a really nice cover. So yeah, this is also great. Like if you've got any like young kids interested in history, I think go for Tangled in Time.
That's a good one. I'll have to keep that in mind, because sometimes people do come in and they say that their kid's interested in history, but doesn't want a history book. You know, they don't want nonfiction. They want something that's more fun to read generally. I'll have to keep that in mind.
Okay, we next have on our list history.
History. Okay. Where's my history recommendation? All right. Here we go. My history recommendation is The Badass Librarians of Timbuktu. Now, when I first read this, you would think that it's a lot about librarians. And
yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
Now it is. The catalyst for the book is are librarians that are trying to basically save all of these ancient works from what Middle Eastern, I don't know, we'll call them terrorist groups, because I think those are the terms that we understand. I think that to them, there's a lot more nuance to that, to people that are in the Middle East and dealing with it on a regular basis. But for our purposes, they are terrorist groups. And that's the catalyst for it. But I learned a ton about these militant groups and why they're there, why they believe that they, have a right to be there, why they care about the libraries at all. Like sometimes they care about them because they want the ancient relics and the books and the information for themselves. And sometimes they just don't want anyone else to have them. So there's this underground, this like network of librarians and benefactors to these libraries that are hiding the manuscripts and books in their houses, in barrels, in the back room, in everything, in order to keep them from these militant groups and transport them to safety. So I learned a lot. It is a lot about books and librarians, but it's also a lot about the unrest in the Middle East.
Wow, that sounds awesome. It's a great title, by the way.
No, I know.
Such a good title. Okay, mine is going to be Scottish Queens, which a friend gave me for my birthday. And the author is Rosalind K. Marshall. But it's just about every queen from Lady Macbeth up until Queen Anne, when Scotland was still a thing. And then it formed into the Great Britain or the United Kingdom. So, but it just talks you through as much as they know about the different queen consorts throughout history. And so I'm a huge like history buff. Obviously, you've probably gotten that sense from today, but it's super interesting, and it's nice because it's not like humongous. It's a good size, and it covers like over 25 people. So you've got like a nice overview of these different women, and I think it's one of those situations where not as much has been written about these women, and a lot of things are lost to history and time. So we don't know. So yeah, it's just kind of like, I mean, my last name is Morrison, so I'm very Scottish. But yeah, no, so just that's kind of like a nice overviewy one if you're looking for something like that.
I like that because, yeah, you can read it and you can get a little bit about everybody. And if there's somebody who really sticks out to you, you can go find more research.
Right, exactly. And it's a good one to like dip in and out of. It was not like, I didn't feel like you finish a chapter and there's no cliffhanger, like she's dead. You know, they're going to move on to the next, they're going to move on to the daughter-in-law.
Right. That's
so, you know, it was nicely, and it's actually very well written. Like it flows good in that nonfiction. Like you're not too weighed down with like boring details or anything like that. They're keeping it moving, which I really appreciated.
Okay, so we've reached 6 o'clock, but here's what I'm thinking. What if you pick one from your stack, a category, and I'll pick one from my stack, and then we'll each get to do 2 more recommendations.
Yes, I like that. Okay. I'm going to pick from my category a book that I haven't even read yet, but I want to recommend it for the sports category.
Oh, good. That was the one I was going to pick. I was going to pick sports. Okay.
Oh, you were going to pick sports. Okay, well, you need to pick. So I just got this book in at the bookstore, and it's called A Most Beautiful Thing, and it is the true story of America's first all-black high school rowing team. And there's a documentary about this team that's narrated by Common. But I'm just really excited to read this. I've only heard good things. So yeah, I don't know. It's blurred by Elizabeth Gilbert of Eat, Pray, Love, which is kind of funny.
Awesome.
But like I'm really excited to read this. And hopefully I can report back soon on how it is. Yeah. So that's my sport pick.
Do you have an in translation? You didn't have an in translation.
I can. Oh wait, I technically do. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then. Okay. I'm gonna do my sports book since you did your first, second, then we'll do it. Okay. My sports book is a fiction book by David Duchovny, and yes, it is that David Duchovny from the X-Files because I love the X-Files. But that is not why I bought this book. Is because David Duchovny is actually a really good writer, and that's what he went to school for. Fun fact. Bucky fucking Dent. I'm not necessarily a sports person. I live in New Orleans. I love the Saints. Yes, I am wearing my black and gold for Black and Gold Friday. You can't live in New Orleans and not love the Saints. But other than the Saints, I really don't know much about sports, and I never really played sports, not into it. I learned everything I need to know about baseball from this book. I learned, right? I mean, if you're not going to become a sports fanatic, I've learned everything I need from this. There's sports history in it. If you are into sports, you will probably love it because you will get more about this. This did not mean anything to me, but until after I read it, and then I had to go back through the history and who Bucky Dent was and all of that. If you don't really know sports, this is a hilarious book, and it is about a father and his son, and the father is getting older, and the son has to go and help take care of him, and baseball is what they've always had that glues them together. So you don't have to love sports, but if you do love sports, you'll like Bucky Dent.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I'll go again since this one's my category.
Yes.
In translation, I love reading books in translation. I feel like that's a great way to expand your horizons and really immerse yourself in another culture. And Celestial Bodies by Jokma Al-Harthi. This is translated from Arabic. She's the first Omani woman to ever have a work translated into English. Wow. And she won the Man Booker International Prize for it. So it's really good. It's about 3 sisters and their lives and how the choices they make put them in very, very different situations. If they get married, who they marry, if they don't get married, if they choose to stay home and never really leave their town or move far away, and how they're the similar but very different. And I really enjoyed this book. So there's my in translation.
Okay, my in translation is a classic. The Art of War.
Woo!
Sun Tzu.
Yes.
I think this is it's one of those books that you kind of like always hear about, but then you just never get around to reading it. And then I finally got around to reading it, and I was like, oh, I can see why this is a classic. It's full of great little nuggets. It's written in verse. It won't take you can read it in a sitting. You can see I've flagged it, so enemies be warned. And I've made little notes. So yeah, I think it's just one of those things that like everyone probably should. It always looks cool to have it on your shelf. You'll find some little nuggets in there, and it won't take you long to read. So yeah, that's me.
Absolutely. And it has war in the title, but honestly, there's strategies to just
it's just like life stuff more.
Mm-hmm.
Like it could be seen as self-help as much as it can be to tactical warfare.
Right. Exactly. All right, then. Thank you so much for coming.
Cool. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yes, it was great. I love doing this, and I hope everybody got a bunch of recommendations, all the recommendations they needed or wanted. I'll go back through and make sure that I get links to all of them, everything that we talked about. And I think that's about it. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. I had a really nice time. And thank you, Raina.
Thank you. Bye.